Right. Welcome to Finishing Our Book. Hey. This, when I learned the last panel, the question I got asked most was, how do you finish a book? This is kind of a weird presentation because it's lots of little bitty things. There's not a central narrative. So I hope it's interesting, I hope it's useful, and if it's not, well, I've got stickers. Right. So, this is me. So I'm Taffeta Rose here. You can find me on most social medias as @ROBlack. I think I claimed that on most of them. I'm mostly on Instagram and Blue Sky. But anything other than Twitter. We don't talk about Twitter anymore. That is my official author headshot. I went there. So that is what is on the covers of book jackets and things, because you don't need to have a studio style one. You can be inventive.
As long as you're well lit enough.
Yes, yeah. And Zeren's one, she's in a cow onesie for some of them. So.
I know one author who's got her profile picture is her cosplaying Seto Kaiba. So.
Yes, and that also is Zeren. Right, there's a quick disclaimer.
Done everything the Bible says, even the stuff that contradicts the other stuff.
Next page. So many of this, it's about working out what works for you. They will be entirely contradictory points. You've just got to unleash your inner kitten and find what works, and it's a case of trying different things, and sometimes things will work for one book that won't work for others, or you'll change, and where you previously had silence, you now want to have extensive book playlists, because that's not procrastinating, that's working on your book.
Another lie you tell yourself in the dead of night.
Just like Canva, it's all counts. Set up an environment. I mostly Google cat pictures. So he is judging you, he's judging your desk, he's judging your setup, and he will push that plant off in the next picture. So you can keep the environment as similar as you can. You can kind of get yourself into the mood for writing by having a writing space, writing desk. You can do things like candles, music. It'll trick your brain to go, right, we're in writing mode now, this is what we're doing. But that doesn't always work for everyone. So you might find that if you sit down to the same place, your brain goes, writing mode, no, stopping now. So other people might find that it's easier to go to different places, use cafes and libraries, and especially if you've got a more chaotic, you haven't got a set schedule, keeping you flexible keeps your brain thinking that it's more useful to be jumping around, and you don't have to go, this is my writing time, if your writing time is not a set sort of time and space. Mine is sort of before work, and that is my writing time, but not everybody's got that kind of fixed schedule. Music. I can't write without music. I really need music. Generally, I can work with anything, but often playlists can put you in the right mood for a scene. If you're writing a romantic scene, you don't necessarily want the battle music playing, and if you want a battle, your K-pop ballads aren't often the right thing, so you can adjust your music. And also I've got different playlists for different books, so I know if I put one on, if I'm working through different things, it can put me in the right mood for, like, this is this book. You do end up going down the Spotify rabbit hole. I know someone who's like, I made a playlist, how long is it, Cal? 200 songs, you started this yesterday, Cal. But yeah, so music can be good. But again, a lot of people don't. Some people can only work in silence, so noise cancelling headphones are good for that. If you've got a family or you live in a shared household, it can be good to notify people, this is my writing time, do not disturb me. Set aside time that is, kids cannot pester parents, because it's hard if you're getting started on something and somebody's asking you for a snack every 5 minutes.
The author Brent Weeks, in his, certainly in his Where Shadows trilogy, that sort of thing, has actually in his sort of acknowledgements the music you listen to whilst writing.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
only the artist rather than the specific things, but it's quite eclectic, but it sort of might give you an idea of the sorts of, if you check out, I mean, I recommend Brent Weeks anyway, but check out some of his stuff and look at the acknowledgements. It might give you an idea of the sorts of people that's good to listen to. If you're writing fantasy, maybe if you're writing, you know, Regency romance might not necessarily be the right sort of thing.
If the one I got on sub at the moment, I'm going to have to dedicate it to Thomas Ferguson, so I picked one of his songs and I'd listen to that on repeat for pretty much the whole book. So that is that one song, and I will have to dedicate it to him, because 10,000 Voices was the entire playlist for that one book.
It seems there's a temptation to say, when you read this, I recommend pairing it with
Yeah,
this music.
I mean, I've seen indie authors put
Some
in.
books do that.
Yeah,
Because I suggested, I was told that maybe it was a little good, but I was like, no, I kind of want footnotes with a musical symbol, and like, it's this song for this scene, by the way.
You'll often find authors
I've seen
will
people
put up their playlists on Instagram and things, and say, you know, this is what I wrote this book to. So yeah, I recommend music, but obviously it isn't for everyone. Some people do need silence to work. Quentin, this is this is the Discord sprint bot. That's with the little icon, and I have no idea what that is or why it's like that, but it tells you to write. So this is how I get words down. Is you set a timer. You write for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour, and then there's lots of things that will give you your word count, and you can do it with friends and you can get competitive. So I use the bot on Discord. You just invite it into your server. You can set up your own personal Discord, set up your own personal Sprinto. If you don't have a writing one, lots of writing servers will have this, so you can join in with friends and you can compete and see who got the most words down in 15 minutes. It will tell you your score in words per hour, and it often gives you a few motivational quote. You can also use things like Pomodoro. There's various web timers. Have you written kitten's still a thing? You have to write in a certain amount of time and it gives you a picture of a kitten. I think the first time I tried it, I got a hippopotamus and a giraffe and a kitten, so it's not entirely, it obviously just pulls images from somewhere, and they're not all kittens, but there's also ones that if you don't write enough in time, it starts deleting your words, but I don't recommend that. That's like, be productive. Oh, not be productive at all. So, yeah. So if I get a sprint going, I can do 1,500 words in an hour, maybe. And if I don't get a sprint going, I'll probably do like 200. So it does. This is what makes me write a book. But yeah, that's true. But yeah, I had to put that there. I don't know who made that. I don't know why they made that. I don't know what's wrong with them. But
a mood.
it's the blank stare that.
Yeah, and the water in the eyes.
I saw your workout. Just not impressed. I'm probably going to race through this because it's early morning and I'm nervous. But
you're doing great.
Yeah. So different ways of starting and proceeding through a story. Some people like to outline. Outline is you write a rough guide of how your book is going to proceed. This can be like just bullet notes going. So you know, there's a fight here, they get captured here, there's a big escape here, boss battle done. Or you can have like chapter 4. You know, chapter 1 will be this, chapter 2 will be this. Some people write huge, like almost a full draft, like very brief draft of 10-12k. Other people literally just bullet notes. I have never written an outline in my life. I'm not good at that. I kind of just like, I don't want to start writing. But it allows you to know what you're working to, where all the points are, and hopefully not get lost. You can keep an eye on the word count because you know this point should be halfway, so if you're halfway at this point, you've got this many words, is that the right amount or not? So yeah, it is probably a more sensible way of doing it, but the other way is you just write, you know what's happening next, but you don't necessarily know what's going to happen at the end of the book, or you can know what the end is, and you can know where you are, but not necessarily what's going to happen in the middle. It's a lot easier to be flexible if you decide, actually, this is what this character would do, I'm going to change it up. And it's easy to drive the story by leaning into the characters because you haven't got a set plan. So what do these guys want to do? What are they trying to do? What's stopping them getting to where they're going? And it can feel more organic, more in tune with the characters. You don't feel like you've got Deus Ex Max because you've not got, right, this is going to happen here. You've got, the characters are driving what the story is. But it's also easy to do that if you've got more a character-driven story rather than this is what the plot is. Oh, I'm stuck. This will happen a lot.
That's me on any day and why.
It's why are you photographing me? Why are you looking me out of the tree?
Well, it's an orange cat as well.
Yeah, well, of course it's an orange cat. It's always
right.
orange.
Can you stand the other side of the screen?
I can, but can I?
Just when you're showing
Yes,
these
sorry,
things.
yeah. So, I mean, that's okay. I will put these online. I will look into the Discord or something, because I've not yet done that. But, and I'll put them on the Facebook as well. Right. I couldn't find a kit and an explosion, so I made that. Of my arts. So if you're stuck, one of the things you can do is add an explosion. It doesn't have to be an actual explosion because there's not always, if you're writing Regency romances, there are fewer explosions than if you're writing a spy thriller.
Unless the aliens suddenly invade.
Yes, I mean, these things can happen. You can have Regency aliens. But basically what you want to do is change something up. If you're stuck, you want to move it in a new direction. You want to give something new to happen. It will shake you out of, this bit isn't working. So something drastic. And even if you don't end up keeping that, even if you go, that's not the right tangent, it can then help you get back on the course that you want to get on. Because you've got to go, well, they wouldn't do that, or that wouldn't happen, but this might happen. So it's a good way of sort of shaking your brain up and making something new happen. And if you don't want to, you will get yelled at. You will get messages that say, "Oi, Rose, what? Why have you done this?" And it's the best thing ever. So yeah, you need your characters. But yes, if you don't want to add something completely drastic, you want to carry on in the same vein that you've been going, but to get yourself unstuck, what you want to be doing is, what does your character want most at this point in time? What motivation is driving them? Why are they trying to get this? How can you make it harder for them to get this? And alternatively, what does the antagonist want? Because your plot is basically the protagonist trying to get what they want, the antagonist trying to get what they want, and the two of them clashing, and that is basically a story plot. That conflict between the two goals. So how can you make it harder for the protagonist and easier for the antagonist? How can the antagonist have a victory? Maybe it's an explosion, maybe it's aliens, maybe it's a ball. Always have a ball in fantasy. I've never read a ball in so yeah, so if you don't want to do something drastic, that's what you want to be looking at to get yourself out of the stuck loop. And the tiny potato. You can finish your book. So if you're stuck and these things aren't working, you can reward yourself with a treat. So force yourself to write, get a treat, and a friend who gets a new Pokemon card every 10,000 words. So you need media that inspires you. So if you're writing a sci-fi horror, you can dig out Alien, dig out Event Horizon, various games. It is okay to take a break and refill the creative well with a sort of media that inspires you, and that can give you a hint. Get a friend to read it and go, this bit, I love this bit is great, and just get the motivation of somebody having read it and go, yeah, give me more, can be a massive boost. You don't have to write linearly. If you're stuck, jump to another chapter, something that you're more excited to write. This can cause problems because you end up with the chapters that you want and then the transitions between them are like, no, I don't want to do that. But yeah, it can sort of jumpstart you back into it. Just take a break, let the story sit for a bit, work on something else, don't work on anything, and that kind of free, you don't that's something free. Or you can rubber duck it like this. Something's used in coding. If your code's not working, you get your rubber duck, you talk through what you're doing. Rubber duck's not going to do anything, but talking it through can help you work out, oh, that's what I've done wrong. So, a friend, a partner, a rubber duck, a potato, a cat. Cats are great for that, if they'll sit there. Otherwise, they might just walk off.
Dog, as long as
The
it's
dogs
climb on
are
you.
better than listening to you.
As soon as I start talking to our dog, he thinks, "Oh, Daddy, you want me to climb on you?" Okay, right, dog. Which would be fine if he wasn't a nearly 40-kilo German Shepherd.
Yeah, it's always the big ones. It is always the big ones. It's like, you sat on my lap when you were a puppy.
Oh, he's still a puppy, isn't he?
Yeah, the German Shepherd puppies are, they don't stay small for long. No. So yeah, things that you can do to keep going. A tiny potato believes in you. I believe in you.
Do you believe in you?
That's the harder part. So you've got a book. So you've got your book, and now you have to edit the book, and that's also harder. So you do not have to edit your book in order. In fact, it's often best not to. You probably want to start with the things you can see how to do, and two, the biggest things, because obviously if you make a big change, it is going to have knock-on effects. So if you start editing the things after that, you're going to have to then edit them again. So it's good to work through and plan what you need to do before you start. If you delete anything, you can just put it in another folder, because you might find actually I need that scene back, or I need some of that scene, or I just need that one line, and if you've deleted it, it's gone. But it is worth keeping, because I've often found that, yeah, I don't need that scene, but I do need that interaction, or just that line, or that bit of lore, and I can take it back out of the file. Usually when I start a revision, I'll do an entire new document and make the changes in that one. So I've got the old version still there.
Version control.
Yep, version control. But yeah, you can just start in the one document and just cut and paste things.
It's the great advantage of the modern world with,
It is, yes.
with
Yeah, you
computerised
can't do that
writing.
with typewriter.
Well, you can,
Well, you
sort
can
of.
with scissors and Tipex and
Yeah.
Glad I'm not using typewriters these days. Don't line edit until you make this. It's a temptation to go, oh, I'll just rewrite that line a little bit. But if you're then going to cut that scene, you've spent time changing those lines, you've then just deleted. So make the big changes, then make the smaller changes, then do the commas. You have to do the commas if you're like me. I kind of throw them in. And the copy editor goes, why is there a comma there? Why is there not a comma there?
One thing I found very useful with a bit of line editing is read it aloud.
Yes, read it aloud.
And any pauses you put in, or anything that feels like a natural pause, well, that's where a comma goes.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I put a comma in there and that's not where a comma goes. I've just paused.
Something I find very useful is getting a machine to read it aloud.
Yes, yeah.
Because you think the word says that, and every time you read it, you think it says that, and the machine does not get fooled by it.
Yes. Yeah, reading aloud, somebody else reading aloud, getting Word to read it aloud, is a very useful editing tip. What to do it.
That kitten is fed up of editing the damn
It's
book.
better, yes. Clearly has not seen this presentation and does not know how to do it.
Well, that's the editor who's just like comma.
Yeah, that's what copy
You just
editor.
have commas.
You said this character had blue eyes here and he's got brown eyes.
Continuity. Isn't it?
Copy editors are great. I don't get how it's like, you said this and he said that, and that was slightly different to that. And how did you know that? I wrote this and I didn't know this.
Because as the author, you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yes, that's the real reason why.
That's why a good editor is actually worth their weight in gold.
And that's why you want multiple editors. You want one editor to look at the big picture stuff, you want the copy editor to look at the sort of line level and the continuity, and then you want your proof editor to go, commas there, you misspelled that. So it
That
is
full stop
worth
is italic. That full stop is italic.
What's interesting is the amount of times he's gone through all those editors.
And you will still get them, yes. Yes, all those are.
I mean, sometimes it's printing errors,
Yeah, there will.
which, you know, if you've got a manuscript of, 100,000, words in there, one misplaced comma from the printing press
Yeah,
is not going to pass.
I know, I mean like full-on spelling mistakes.
yeah. I did an annotated version for Bob and thought, oh, that's a big old typo right there. And the other thing is you go, oh, it's full of spelling errors. No, I'm British. I spell it like that. Those views I get deliberate. Right.
Send in an author's soul crushing sometimes.
Oh, don't get me started. Yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster. There are ups and there are some downs. Right, so let's say you are not quite at the editing stage, you're not quite at the writing the book, so if you've got some ideas, which one do you pick? Generally the best way to do this is to make a note of each of them, assign them a number, roll a dice, and then see how you feel about that dice roll. Because that will tell you whether that's something you want to write or not. If you roll the dice, you go, oh yeah, okay. If you roll the dice and go, oh, I wish it'd been a 4, you know that actually you probably want to work on whatever was number 4. So it's not just useful for picking them, it's also how do you feel about each idea. You don't necessarily consciously know, but if you get a roll and go yes or no, you'll know deep down that actually this one is sitting with you or not.
So you're saying I need to buy more dice?
Yes, yes.
Also, just as a thing from an editor's point of view, you roll a die.
Yes, you do. You do.
You roll a single die and multiple dice.
Well, yes.
Because you could have a lot of ideas with D100, because that would be nice.
Yeah, well,
It depends if you can get D100s.
You
That's a
can.
golf ball, sir.
I know, they're shite. Use 2d10.
Yes. That's what we're there for. Yeah. Yeah. That was there to catch you out. What if you don't have a list of ideas? You're not me. I am plagued by concepts. I have a little Discord that's personal, and every time I get an idea, I make a new category, write some notes in it, and I've now got 10 or 15 in there. It's useful because you can drop it down a quick idea, and you don't wake up with like, oh, I had an amazing idea and I have completely forgotten it. So yeah, having a little Discord on your phone, you can make a note and get an idea. But yeah, so like I said, plenty of reading, watching, playing games, all of that is good. You should do that because because it is important to refill the creative well, and you will do that by being involved in creating things. So reading, watching, tabletop RPGs, all of that is good. The sort of Tumblr posts that crop up on Instagram and Facebook and things, those can be like really good sparks for ideas. So Bard's came out because there was one about a married adventure couple and sitting around a campfire talking about mending socks. So that was a spark that kicked off Bard. The Remarkable Retirement of Edna Fisher is the one that's the chosen one is a grandmother. So the Tumblr post about I'm fed up of chosen ones being teenagers. I want to see I want to see an elderly woman with her retirement house assistant going off after making her take her pills. So that's retirement, remarkable retirement beneficiaries. Grandmother who goes off and dragons and things. There are prompt generators. You have to be careful because a lot of them, they're AI. And I have issues with generative AI and creative stuff. But that one seemed very interesting. It gave you different genres of things, so you could have a murder mystery and it would give you a victim, a murder weapon, and a setting. And you can keep playing with that until you find one that's vaguely interesting. You can take real life events, or mythology, or even a plot of a different book, as long as you're not, as long as you're not sort of plagiarising the actual book, you're just taking an idea. So we have what denounces World War II, which is the Man in the High Castle, or Lies We Sing to the Sea there's a mention in the Odyssey of something that happens. Obviously it's largely irrelevant to the Odyssey, but Lies We Sing to the Sea is about what all that was about. Word generators, word dice, link some words together, see if anything that kicks off. I find most writers, once they get started with things, once you've done a couple, you do end up being plagued by concepts. And they will not leave you alone and they will follow you around. But those are some ideas for generating things if you're struggling to come up with a new idea. This is something a little bit more serious that I wanted to touch on. So these are the stats for, I think this is 2023, and these are the publishing industry overall. I think that's US and UK. It might just be US, but I think the UK is fairly similar. So you can see 72 of publishing industry. So these are editors, agents, marketers, people employed by publishing houses and literary agencies. Are 72% white. They are mostly 25 to 30, that's a bigger spread. They are mostly female. They are mostly heterosexual, and they are mostly disabled. And an awful lot of them live in a specific area of the US. Yeah, I think these might be US stats rather than global, but the UK ones aren't that different. So publishing largely connects with what it is. So the people who are buying these stories will largely connect with the stories that are most similar to them. If you've been publishing, if you speak to any marginalised person in publishing, they will tell you, I had a rejection with, we've already got a black book, we've already got a queer book, we've already got a book with someone with a wheelchair user. I know, they're getting better at not saying this out loud, but if you look at the stats of books published, they're still doing this, because they see them as competition. They say, we've got a black character, we can market that to these people. If we have another one, they're in competition. Here we've got a queer book, only queer people will read that, so they're in competition. So people are only going to buy one book? Exactly. It is stupid, it is wrong. Lots of people are very interested in reading books by other people, but the publishing is very backwards. And you can say, yeah, absolutely, it shouldn't be like this, but it is. And there's a difference between writing diverse characters, queer norms, having disabled characters shown, and marketing it as that. And obviously, as writers, we should be writing books that aren't, male and white cast. We should have queer characters. We should have people with disabilities in there. But there's a difference between saying, this is my world, it's populated by people look like this, and this is a queer book, you can sell it as queer.
There's a caveat to that.
Yeah.
If you're writing historical fiction,
historically
you've got to get the context right, because as a historian, one of the things that immediately takes me straight out of a supposed historical setting is things that would not have been there. And I'm not just talking about someone producing a revolver in the 15th century.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
talking
there
about
are,
you're in the 10th century. You're in 10th century Britain, and suddenly someone from China turns up.
Yeah.
No, it just did not happen.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Check your historical context.
Yeah, if you're writing historical, obviously there were,
The flip side of that, a lot of historical contexts were more diverse than we now see them.
yes, yeah.
They were, but to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing: is you have to understand what we mean in terms of diverse. In that there is more diversity than just one skin colour.
Yeah.
You know, Europe is actually very diverse.
Yeah.
The fact that the vast majority of people in Europe, certainly historically, are white, does not mean that someone from Norway is exactly the same as someone from northern Italy.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
Yes, there were trade routes. Yes, there was a lot of intercommunication, particularly with the Middle East and southern and eastern Europe. And that got better as we moved on in the centuries, because obviously people started travelling more, it became easier to travel. But if you go particularly far back, certainly after the fall of the Roman Empire, when all the trade routes evaporated, people stayed where they were.
Yeah.
So just as I said, it comes back to that historical context.
You can fact check this, but it's more about, so even if you don't sense, even if you're not intending to, you can, if you're a straight writer, if you're an able-bodied writer, if you're a neurotypical writer, and you're pushing it as this is my market, this is my selling point, you are going to end up taking away from the people that you're supposedly trying to represent. And it's mostly a trad pub issue. Indies don't have the same resource pressure, but it is something to consider when you're coming up with ideas and why you want to write them. The other important thing is only you can examine your motivations. Nobody should be saying you're not queer enough, you're not disabled enough to write these things. But the fact that we know people are doing this puts pressure on people to say, prove it, which is just as bad the other way. Because, especially at the moment, not everybody can be out. Not everybody queer, so presents as a same-sex couple. There are lots of bi and pan people who are just as queer, but they're in straight-presenting relationships. And this kind of are you the right person should only be done in your head. But because we know people aren't doing this, it does put pressure on people to say, well, you're not the right person. So it's just something I think people need to think about a bit more when they come up with an idea. That are you writing this to explore a part of yourself or part of stuff you think you might have? Because a lot of people come to their identity through writing other characters, or are you writing it because you've written 5 straight books, your book died on sub, you think you need to be more interesting. So yeah, it's just something I think people need to think about a little bit more than actually happens sometimes. So that's my more serious. And that's, have we got any questions? Because no longer beyond your comprehension. I can tell you I found my best reads.
Just going back to AI for a moment. I know we don't want to be using AI or anything like that, really. One of the things I have found very useful is if you've got some ideas in your head and you're trying to refine them, bounce them off ChatGPT.
Yeah, I mean,
discuss it that way, and say, I can't think of this. Get them to come up with lists.
Yeah, it is great for that. But my issue with going to ChatGPT is because they've just pulled everything they can. You're encouraging it. You're saying to these companies, look, this is working for me, so it's okay for you to keep.
The problem is you're now trying to close the barn stable after the entire herd of horses has gone.
The other thing is because they disguise where they've pulled their data from, it's very easy for, if you get a good idea from the AI, that's actually a book that they've scrapped, but somebody wrote that, and you don't know that because it's disguised.
But then there's also only about 7 basic stories in human history anyway, and everything that's written is a variation on it.
Yeah.
There is, you know,
yeah.
if you look at things like the hero's journey, you know, that will ruin fiction for you forever. if you don't
take it too literally.
Only if you take it too literally, but you know,
Yeah.
you can't tell me that Aragorn isn't Star Wars with dragons. It is.
It is, yes. I remember a friend, I read this book, it's great, this happens, what, like in Star Wars? Yeah, I suppose so. But yeah, but this happens, what, like in Star Wars? Yeah. And then this happens, like in Star Wars.
In fact, the hero's journey thing is a little bit like, you know, it's giving you the hammer, therefore
Everything is in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That comes back to us as
I mean,
writers.
that's it. It's a plot structure. What makes a story interesting is very, very rarely the plot structure. It's characters, it's the world building, it's the twists you put in it. So yeah, things are similar, but yes, you're right. When you scraped stuff, an idea might be something that's actually written, and it depends how much of that you take away.
Going back to Brent Weeks, he actually had a discussion about this, in that when he did, I've forgotten the name of the book, but he wrote a fantasy series where he had a magic system based on colour.
Yes. Yeah.
And he came up with it and he thought, oh, this is brilliant, and then realised that, I don't know who it was, somebody else had done a magic system based on colours. And he just went, shit. There goes my entire idea. Except it wasn't quite the same. It was similar enough, but then he thought, it's slightly different, not quite the same. Okay, similar enough, but what I'm doing with it is completely different. I'm going my own way. Just because you've got something that's been done before, like, you know, or the farm boy gets a call to adventure and goes off to fight the evil empire, you know, do something else with it. You know, just because you've got the same start point, the same basic premise, go wild. And in fact, sometimes that can really, really work, in that people go, oh yeah, I know this story. Oh, hang on, wait a minute. We've just gone completely off the reservation.
Is often a good way to set a satisfying plot out of things. People are expecting it to go one way, and then it doesn't. Yes.
If you're writing with the hope of getting it published, would you definitely recommend having the book as complete as possible before approaching publishers?
Yes, if you are approaching agents or publishers with a book, it should be complete, it should be edited, it should be as good as you can make it on your own. You want it to be a point where if they published it, you'd be happy with this. And obviously you will get to an agent and they'll go, well, what about if we do this? And you go, yeah, it's brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? And then an editor will come along and go, but what about this? And let's expand on this. And you'll go, yeah, shit, I'm rubbish at this. But yes, but you want to get it to a point where you are happy with it. And if you saw it on the shelf, you know, you would be happy with that being out there.
The only issue comes where you've finished it in a way you're happy with it, and then whoever's taking it on has gone, no, let's not do that. Why don't you do this instead? And it just changes everything. I
mean, you're ready to. I will tell you a story about that book then on those lines. So I sent that book. So my second book, I sent it to the editor in August. I said, it's a bit different to Bard. It's more serious. Is this all right? And she said, right. I've read the first third. It's perfect. Brilliant. I'll sign that off. Get you the edits in October. October passes, November passes, December passes. She stops talking to us. We get her boss involved. February, she comes back and goes, right, okay, I want you to completely change the plot. And this book comes out in November, mind you. So February, so I've got 7 months, and she said, well, you know, I want to completely rip out what you've written this book about, and it should be about this. And I said, no, the book is about this. And so we had long conversations. And I thought, if you don't want that book, I've got other things. Well, no, I've got the cover done now. So we had long battles about this book, and I've got it to the point where, no, this is the plot I wanted to tell. It's a story I wanted. Your editor should not be doing that. It should still be your story. Your editor should be making that story better. They should not be going, no, we want something different.
So you did get your plot?
I did, yes.
The editor made a massive assumption, and because they were utterly shit at managing their time, which is why they got fired in the end, they just presumed that the book would be very, very similar to the previous book,
Despite
and
being
signed it
told
off,
that it wasn't.
and didn't actually bother to read it for close to 6 months, then realised they'd signed off on something blindly that wasn't what they thought it was, even though Rose had explicitly and in writing told them this. And the fact that she'd done it in writing meant that, especially with the manager involved, that she did win that argument. But obviously, having a pissing match with your editor doesn't. Well, the editor's gone, and yeah, Rose is now looking for somebody new, unfortunately. So what? She didn't want that editor anymore anyway, but.
I am deeply curious now what they thought that book was going to be.
She said she'd read a third of it. The thing starts off with a deeply traumatised man in a castle. And he doesn't get rid of
First chapter.
Yeah, the first chapter is like, this is not cute and fluffy. This is, here is your trauma. You can't see certain trauma. So yeah, the editor shouldn't be doing that. And this is why having an agent is important, because it's not just access to the publishing houses, it's somebody who knows how publishing works, who knows the legal side of it, who knows how things should run. Because yeah, this was very stressful for me, but my agent had my back at every stage of this. She was pushing the editor to respond, she was getting involved with the higher ups, so as an writer it is very hard to, because these people are putting out your work, and it's personally important to you. So your agent is the one who can take a sort of a mental step back from that, who knows how things work, who knows how things should work, and go, no, this isn't right, this isn't how it should be, let's not do it like this. You've messed up here. So yeah, the editor shouldn't be going in and going, well, let's do it different. They should be going, this bit isn't clear enough, we could expand on this idea, we could bring this theme out, and then it's your job to do that. They should not be going, your plot is wrong, your plot is wrong, they shouldn't have bought the book.
Well, yeah, because at what point do they then, write your own book with that plot that you
Yes.
want?
Yeah. Go hire some IP writer. Hey me, I'll do both of them. Any more questions?
American v British English.
Yeah, so if it doesn't really matter, writing whatever you're comfortable in, often it will be changed. If you sell it to a UK publisher and a US publisher, the US copywriter will probably put it in US English.
So bad English.
Bad English, yes.
Do you get any of the used back?
Do we use? We can put them in an envelope for you.
We don't know what a philosopher is. Let's call it a sorcerer instead.
Yes, something like that.
They are not the same thing.
And occasionally you'll get things where you'll have a book set in the UK and they've moved it to US English, and you get characters talking about cyborgs. It's like they're in London. And they're not cyborgs.
At the risk of bringing up Harry Potter, that sort of thing happens in fanfic all the time with American fanfic writers.
Yes, I've got a Facebook group where we volunteer to Brit pick things, so they'll ask us questions about UK schooling.
Yeah, 50 Shades is very, very much aware of that one.
What the hell's the services on the motorway, Rose?
Yes.
Do you mean a truck stop? Why as a woman would you ever step out there? Because those are dangerous.
I wrote about the characters stop at motorway services, so they stop, they go out, they go and eat fast food, and then they go to the hotel. And I'm like, what kind of magical place is this?
Come to Britain, we're better.
Don't you have these? No.
Everything's relative.
How are you all together like this? So yes, I go to teach my
The toilets get cleaned.
It's about UK service stations.
And in a way that does tie back to sort of, make sure you're getting your facts right
Yeah,
if you're basing
yes.
it on anything. One of the most egregious things I ever saw was some, I mean, you know, again, sort of within the Potter fan fiction, founders' stories. Stories about the founders of Hogwarts, which lived, what, 1,000 years ago, they say, from when the books are set, which is, what, the mid-90s? So we're talking the back end of the 10th century. Yeah, that's the Viking Age, guys. So, you know, don't write a story where one of the children of the founders gets really, really upset and decides to run away by taking a train to America. What?
Yes.
Couple of minor problems with that one.
I think actually out of time, so that was, if you've got any questions, I'm around until this afternoon, so do come in. I've got some stickers and bookmarks, if you'd like to help yourself. Thank you very much.